Oh, these kids at home. Mamas, we need your help. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. So, hey everybody, welcome to the Homework to Homeschool webinar. We are gathering together today because, I sound like we're in church, right? Because we are all trying to figure this thing out. We are all located on the East Coast, actually. We're all in New Jersey. In the New Jersey and New York area. And so if you don't already know, our children are actually already home. Their children, Sierra and Unique's children, were home anyway, but all of our children are home now. Mostly all of the schools are closed. And so within a couple of days, we were forced to become homeschool parents. And so what we're going to talk about today is what that looks like, what the process of transitioning from school to homeschool looks like, how we can come up with effective ways to make our households work, and also how we can actually get stuff done while we are homeschooling, because I know there are a lot of parents who are like, how am I supposed to get work done? So I'm going to give a word of caution and let you know my children are in the background wilding out. They're probably going to be like, you'll hear them, or they may pop up on my lap, and that's totally fine. I'm kidding, they're not wilding out, but they are full of energy because it's 2 o'clock in the daytime. But I'll share a couple of my tips and tools and what I've learned throughout this process. And I'm gonna ask questions to who I call the experts. So let's get started with that. I'm gonna introduce Unique and Sierra. Unique has been homeschooling her son, Aiden. Her son is 10 years old. And so Unique, can you just say hi to everyone and tell us how long you've been homeschooling Aiden, and just give us a little introduction about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Unique. I've been homeschooling my son for 4 years now. Like Amber said, he's 10 and he's in 5th grade. And it's not as bad as you think.
Right, exactly. Unique is going to share with us, her perspective is that this is a really great time for people because this is something you want to know about anyway. And I think that that's true. I think that there are going to be some parents who are probably going to continue to homeschool their children even after this. And so this could be a beautiful thing. That's just kind of introduction for you. Or if it's not, and you're like, absolutely not, no, then at least you can figure out how to navigate during these times. So we also have Sierra Taylor with us. Sierra and Unique are both business owners. They're both homeschooling home educators to their children. Sierra has a sweet, yummy daughter, Emma, and she's been homeschooling for how long now?
Right here too. Yes,
hi, Emma.
So she's been homeschooled for pretty much forever. She went to school for 90 days because she wanted to try it, but she's been homeschooled. She's 9, so since forever.
Yeah. So I'm sure you can give us some really great perspective as well. And last but not least, we have Rose Uwague. We're going to talk to her in our last 20 minutes. She is homeschooling by force, but she is also getting work done. And so in managing her schedule, she is our productivity coach. In managing her schedule, she is actually home right now and working on some stuff. So we're going to have her join us from 2:40 until 3 o'clock. So just so you know, this webinar is going to last about we see some people saying hi. Hi, Onika. Thanks for joining us, guys. So this webinar is gonna last until about 2:55, and then the last 20 minutes, we'll go until about 3:20. The last 20 minutes, we're gonna take questions. So again, if you don't know already, your chat, you can find in the bottom right corner of your phone or your computer. You can type your questions in the chat, type your comments, feel free to share resources and tools, all of that. Share them in the chat, and then we'll get to the questions towards the end of this. Hey, Crystal. All right, y'all. Okay, good. So this is good timing. I see us. We're ready to get going. So there is a term, I've been doing research on this homeschooling thing as I was trying to figure out how to adjust to having my kids be at home, which is a part of why I came up with the idea to do this webinar. I was doing some research and I found there's a term called deschooling. And deschooling is when that's my son right there, who's going to be a part of this now, I'm sure. Deschooling is when you're breaking the patterns from traditional school. So in deschooling, your children Sierra, you may not have as much to weigh in on that because your daughter has been homeschooled for so long. So I'm going to start off with this question for Unique and asking, when did you take your son out of traditional school? What age was he? And what did the process of deschooling look like for you? I'm going to mute while you answer that.
So, my son, he went to school. He went to pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. I abruptly took him out of school within the first month of second grade. And so I was forced, just like how, some of the other parents were forced. At first, I tried to follow a schedule. So like I wanted to follow his school schedule. And it kind of was going smooth. I had him get up in the morning and get dressed as if he was still going to school. But literally, I had created a classroom for him. So he would come downstairs and go into his classroom. So at first, it kind of felt like he was still in school until he realized like he doesn't have a bunch of friends to play with during the day. So it kind of was smooth for us in the beginning as far as deschooling. Now we are really out of the transition of deschooling, and it's a whole different circumstance now. The schedule is like out the window.
Were there things that you had to explain to him about what would be different while he was learning at home in regards to what would be different from school and what his expectations were based on him being in school prior to that?
So he didn't know that. I didn't know either. Like I went to his school on Monday and I left out of there and I said, "You're not going back. We're just going to start homeschooling." And so at first it sounded like fun to him because he gets to stay home, right? And then after a while it was like the friends and, the kids. And so what I had to do was find a co-op program. And what co-op is, it's a school for children who are homeschooled and the parents are the teachers. So people go to co-ops maybe 2 to 3 times a week. That way they feel like they're still in school when they're really being homeschooled and they're around their peers. So that's what I had to find a co-op.
So we're going to talk a little bit later about what's different now than traditional homeschooling, because that would be wonderful if we could find co-ops. Unfortunately, we can't do that right now, but this is something that you may want to look into in the future if you decide that you like this whole homeschooling thing. So just to mention it now while we're on it, and then we'll come back to it. How did you find a co-op? And can you give some advice as to how to find co-ops? And Sierra, I'd like for you to weigh in there as well, because I know that you are a part of some really great co-ops too.
Yes, yep.
I Googled some co-ops but that's not how I got with the co-op that I'm with. I actually found programs for Aiden to do during the day. So the first program I found was a homeschool swim class. And I went to that class. That's the first time I met other homeschool parents. And then I was talking to another parent who was African American. And I asked her, and she was telling me that her son is in a co-op. Actually, she has 2 children, and they're both in a co-op program. And I was like, "Well, Dad, do they have any openings? Can we join? Like, I want to be a part of this." So she spoke to the director, and the following week I went. I fell in love with it. My son fell in love with it, and we've been doing that for 3 years now. So it was word of mouth, just like finding programs. It's harder now because the homeschool programs that they have are all on hold.
Yeah. One thing, just I'll weigh in and say that I'm thinking about doing after this, and you guys can let me know in the comments if you're interested. I'm thinking about starting a Facebook page for parents who have their kids at home, for us to continue to share resources and ideas even after this. So if that would be helpful, drop a comment in the chat. Let us know if that'd be helpful for you, because we can continue to support each other even after this. Okay, I'm gonna get my son a popsicle, but Sierra, if you can weigh in on how you found co-ops as well. I'm gonna put us on mute, and I'll be right back on the camera in just a second.
Okay, yeah, so mine was actually through Facebook. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just started going on Facebook and looking up homeschool groups. And so I belong to one that has a good amount, like about 2,000 to 3,000 members, and it's called Essex County NJ Homeschoolers. But wherever you live, so I live in Maplewood, New Jersey, but wherever you live, you'll be able to probably find some homeschooling groups in that area. They have them all like throughout South Jersey, Central, North Jersey, even in New York. And so that's a super active group, the one that I'm in, and they're constantly posting their co-ops, their classes. They're constantly putting together classes. So even like when we did homeschool skateboarding with Emma, like how that whole thing started was through Homeschool Skate. And I learned about that. And then I put a little group together through our Facebook homeschooling group. So that's a great resource. And that's probably pretty much the only one that I use. And even though, like Unique was saying, we do go to a lot of homeschooling classes during the day. I mean, that's not a thing now, but when it was, we were doing that. And so you can talk to people that way, but the Facebook thing is big.
Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of support, just us needing to support each other and stay connected, even if it's virtually right now. And so I'm sure other solutions will pop up for that. So I want to get into, I'm going to ask you some questions about what tools you use in homeschooling. But first, I want to ask you both to weigh in on how you mentally prepare yourself for homeschooling. And again, Sierra, I know your answer is going to be a little bit different because you've been doing this for a while, but even kind of maybe what led you to the decision to homeschool. And Unique, how that day when you said on Monday, my son is not going back to school on Tuesday, how you prepared yourself for what would be ultimately taking your son's education into your own hands.
Am I starting first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so first, that was Monday. He had the rest of the week off. Enjoy while I prepare, right? Because the first thing I had to do is I had to send a letter of intent. I went to the Board of Education and I told them I was withdrawing my son from school. He went to a private school. What do I need to do? And so I had to write a letter of intent. I had to find the school that he was going to go to and create a whole curriculum and send it to the school, to the Board of Ed. And they also told me the requirements that I had to do. And so I did that for that week. And I went out and I brought a bunch of books, and it was an online program. And that week I just took it just to do a bunch of research. And Monday we just started fresh. So that was the first step for me.
So your shift to homeschooling was almost as sudden as ours is. And so part of what I hear you saying is, so parents, if you are homeschooling your kids, if your school has not sent home curriculum or e-learning for your kids, or even if they had, allow yourself some time to just adjust. We were all thrown into this so suddenly. So one of the tips that I'm hearing you say, that what you naturally did that we could all take from that, is just to allow an adjustment period where you're not like, we're homeschooling and we're doing this now and everything is just so, figured out and regimented. Naturally, we're figuring this out as we go. So, allowing that adjustment time and seeing what works. I'll say like this week for my daughter. So her school did provide at-home curriculum. She gets assignments emailed every day of what she's supposed to do. And so the first day I said, get your assignments done. And I let her manage herself. This is also an opportunity for our children to learn how self-regulation and how to manage themselves better. And this is espespecially if you've got kids that are around 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, these are skills that will be great for them even when they go to college, when you're not there anymore to help them regulate their schedules. So I let her free for all. And I was like, just do your work. And you do it when you want to. And I watched her and I said, okay, I gave her a notebook and I said, write down the amount of time it takes you to do each of your assignments. And then at the end of the day, we looked at that and we used that to come up with a schedule for the next day. So that was very helpful. And we're it's only day 3 now. So I'm sure things will change, but we incorporated today. I let them get out the house and run some of their energy out before we got on this call, because I was like, wait, I don't want them running around in the background. Let me feed them lunch. Let me let them get their energy out. And so, getting out the house, even though they cannot come in contact with each other, they're able to get out the house and play outside, which is important for their mental well-being, that they're not feeling the stress of all of this at home, that they're still able to play and be kids, because ultimately, they're kids and we don't want to take that away from them just because of the conditions that we're currently under. So Sierra, do you want to weigh in on that as well? On
like how I mentally prepare myself? Was that the question?
Yeah, maybe it's how do you mentally prepare yourself for the week or the day, since you didn't have to prepare yourself for homeschooling because you've always done it.
Right. I mean, there was a couple shifts that I had to make with the homeschooling, and I mean, speaking to this whole scheduling thing again, which I think is interesting. So I've been seeing like on a lot of parents who are now in the forced to homeschool place where their kids are doing so many activities during the day. Like, I mean, it's like, okay, now I want them to paint, now I want them to bake something, now I want them to whatever. Like, I'm running out of ideas. I'm like, why we ain't got to do all that. Like Emma can attest to this literally. Like Emma has things that she has to do, and it's not even every day because like we were saying, it takes a fraction of the time for her to do the things that they would be doing in school and to learn them well. And also we have some processes and things that I've come up with that I work with her on, but it's like reading, writing, math. And other than that, she just kind of does whatever she wants. And sometimes Emma is bored, right? Sometimes you're like, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
But when you're so bored and I'm like, go find, you got to figure out what you're going to do. What do you do?
Sometimes I play on my iPad. Sometimes I play with my dolls. Sometimes I do hairstyles. Sometimes I like to do
art. Yeah, she crafts, she goes and makes up plays, she plays with her dogs. Like she does so many different things. There is nothing wrong with kids being bored. So I think it's good, right? Like, because then they figure out what it is they're interested in, what it is they're capable of, their imagination goes to work. So this idea that your kids, I'm so bored. Okay, so be bored. You're going to figure it out. Like, give them the materials that they need and maybe facilitate a little bit, but you don't have to be like structuring and coming up with an activity for them all the time throughout the day. And they might get on your nerves a little bit initially, but if you don't give into it, they'll figure it out. So I think other than making sure that they're keeping up with the stuff that they need to keep up with so that when they do go back to school, they're not feeling behind, which is it's still not a big deal, but you don't want them to feel behind. You know what I mean? So like, make sure they're doing what they need to do. And then that's it. Like we are very relaxed over here, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you both touched on some really great points. And this is some of what I found in my research as well. One, that kids will figure it out when they are quote unquote bored. That's an opportunity for them to get creative. What did they do what did we do even before the internet? We as parents, we didn't do the internet when we were kids. We found out what we were good at and what we were interested in by being bored. So allowing within your schedule, and I'm going to ask you a bit more about your schedules, but allowing for a part of the schedule to be free time and letting them figure it out, I hear is also key to really making the most of this situation and telling them to go and get creative. Play is so important for kids, and I think that
that's how kids learn. That's it.
Yeah, it's through play is not just them playing, but it's them figuring themselves out, figuring the world out, figuring out how things work, what they like, what they're interested in. I'm sure that Emma and Aiden will be two kids who, when they get older, they know what they want to do for a living. Unique, you can tell us a bit about Aiden now. I'm sure doesn't get very bored because he's a business owner already, which is something that you found was of interest to him after you took. Did Aiden start his business before he left? Before you took him out of school or after?
So he just started his business like maybe a month, almost 2 months ago. And he's still not finished. He's like now just creating a bunch of products. And so he has a classroom, right? And in his classroom, he has another desk that's where he does his work. So Aiden.
He has a classroom in your home.
Yes. So Aiden he makes bath bombs and he does them with CBD for adults. And he also does soap, sea moss soap. He does deodorant for children and bath teas for anybody. And so how the whole bath bomb thing came about, he always used to buy the bath bombs that light up, got toys inside. And he was like, I want to make them. And so he went on YouTube and he found the way to make it, but it wasn't natural for me. So I had to go and do my own research and then help him come up with products that were all natural. And so it went from being a school project, because that's science. Anything you experimenting with becomes a project. As a homeschool mom, Sierra, you can relate. When a child does something, you're like, oh, that's a part of this. That's a part of that.
Exactly.
So I can grade that and put that on your report card. And so that's how he came about with his business. But I do agree that children can be bored. And, you know, there's a lot of things that they can do in the house now because they can't go outside, right? Like I was saying this yesterday on my Instagram page, like teach them how to make up their bed, teach them how to organize their closet, teach them how to do laundry, teach them how to cook something. This is the time, and as homeschool children, they're very independent. So they can do things on their own without their parents. Like, I'm gonna give y'all an example of how my day went so far. My son woke up at 8:00 this morning. I was still sleeping. He gets up, he walks his dog, he makes up his bed, he makes his own breakfast, and he brushes his teeth, and he started school. So when I woke up at 9:00, he was already in his classroom doing his work.
So what time does he start his work, and where is he when he's working? Not physically in the house, but what is he working on? What are his?
So he logs onto the computer. He logs onto the computer, and he does English first, and then he does math. He'll do science and then social studies. But the first 3 subjects he does on his own. Social studies I do with him, and then like extra curriculum activities we do together. But for the most part, I schedule it where his online work is first, because I'm not a morning person. I'm not getting up, and the computer's going to teach him. If he needs help with something, then he'll come to me. But other than that, he's very independent until about 11 and 12 o'clock.
Okay. Emma's the same way, actually. That's not unusual. Like, Emma gets up and she'll make some pancakes. I mean, she tells me if she's going to use the stove, but like she makes eggs, she makes pancakes, she'll make oatmeal, she'll make her some cereal. She'll, you know what I mean? She'll get herself ready for the day. She does also take her dog out on her own, like very independent. But her schedule's a little bit different because she doesn't like get on the computer and then do anything like that. And most of the like official work that she does with me, only because I want to make sure that she's not doing it right, but that I'm thinking she knows what she's doing. And then meanwhile, like she doesn't. So I do monitor, even though she's, you know what I mean, doing it on her own or that, so I can actively help her. And I feel like that way it also just goes a lot quicker too. You know, she doesn't have to spend so much time, you know, doing whatever, like reading, writing, math activities.
Okay, so great stuff. This is a good time for me to mention as well, because I'm sure some of you will ask what Unique mentioned, an online learning program and the computer that she's using, like when he goes on the computer. So if you're registered for this webinar, you will receive a link afterwards. You will receive an email afterwards with a whole list of resources for parents, and it'll include a link to this program that Unique uses. And so in the Q&A, if you want to ask a couple questions about it, that's totally fine. You can start to line them up in the chat, but we will speak directly to that. I know she highly recommends it, and I know a few parents that she's recommended it to, and they love it. So if you don't have a curriculum that's been provided from the schools for your child, then this is a really good resource for you to use to keep your child on track with learning. We have some other resources as well that'll go into the email that's sent. So make sure if you are sharing this with friends, this is going to be recorded. If you're sharing this with friends, if you get the recording after, tell them to go ahead and register so they can get the same list of tools and resources. And we'll also have some special offers in there. Like for instance, free coaching with our productivity coach, Rose Ann, who's going to be speaking at around 2:40. Okay, so back to the schedules. So I hear a lot of independence in the day and not hovering over the kids and watching them while they're working and making their breakfast for them. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about homeschool is my kids are going to be home and I'm going to have to do everything for them. Like I have a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old who's staring at me through the staircase right now, but I have tasked them with entertaining each other. And this is new for me, but you know, we're requiring a lot more independence than what has been required before. And I think that this is something that will ultimately grow them. So I'm savoring this experience, although it's different and forced and I wasn't expecting it. I've been making the most of it for sure. So Unique and Sierra, can you also just give us a bit of an idea about what a typical day looks like for you, so that you can just give some advice to parents who are trying to come up with schedules for their kids during this time?
Yep. So for our typical day, Emma usually gets up between like 8 and 9 o'clock. She will start getting herself ready. She gets washed up, gets her dog together. I'll usually like take a minute. Sometimes I'll meditate. I'll start writing. Like I'm like slow to get going.
And then I play on my iPad while she's doing because sometimes she does that before I take Chinzy out, our dog, and so.
No, she's saying like it, yeah. So sometimes if I'm like because I watch her when she goes outside because we live in an apartment. So I stand on the balcony and watch her in the little courtyard, take her dog out. So if I need like a little extra minute before I get up, she'll like get on her iPad and do a couple things. but yeah, so she does that. She gets herself ready. She makes breakfast. I get up and I start working on whatever stuff I need to do for the day. So usually like my first things involve like my mental, right? So I'm like writing, I'm reading like some spiritual text, I'm lighting some incense. I have like these sound bowls going. It sounds very like
little Miss Wellness over here is we're on the same vibe. Like, yes, for sure.
But yeah, it's important, right? Like you need to set up your mind for that day. And some people are big proponents of like getting up early in order to do that, so before your kids are up, because they won't leave you alone. But I mean, and you may need to do that, but I don't even find that to be necessary, because she knows, like, you know what I mean, she can come talk to me while I'm doing that. But if I'm meditating and it's not an emergency, like, leave me alone for a minute. So she gets ready, does her stuff, makes her breakfast. While she's eating, she's allowed to like either listen to audiobooks. Oh, that's another good one. So she has a kids program. Can you get them, please? It's called Epic. And it's like $8 a month, but you can do like a month for free. And it has a ton of audiobooks for kids, which Emma is obsessed with.
My favorite is Whatever After or Wings of Fire.
Whatever After Wings of Fire. So that's like for a little bit of an older kid, but you can set it to your child's age. So they'll give you books that are age appropriate or even interest appropriate. So she listens to audiobooks all the time, like even more than watching TV. She's like, Mom, can I please listen to some audiobooks? Like almost to the point where I feel like I have to regulate it. Like, okay, enough audiobooks. But she's big on that. And then, so like, I'll do my work while she's getting her room tidied up and all of that kind of stuff. And then she meets with me for doing whatever we're doing that day for homeschooling, which usually takes no more than an hour. So I have an example, like some stuff that we use, which are, I was telling you, resources that I created for her. So these are like some coloring pages. They're printable, but it's an ebook that I did when we were trying to teach her multiplication, which was like smack myself. Like she hated it. She was bored to tears. It was like 3 months, right, where we were working on one set of multiplications, and she just could not remember it. But not because she couldn't, but because she was just bored. It's like, okay, now what's 3 times 4? What's 3? So in that process, we started doing this thing where like I made these coloring pages. I don't know if you guys can see this, but essentially, so it's a rhyme, right? And it's a color. So it just says 3 times 5 is clean because it equals 15. And so with this, like it was so easy for her to remember. So I have a whole, like I'm going to give you the link for it so you know, people can access this. But like we'll do stuff like that. So I'll sit there and do this with her, and it just goes by so quick. And then so we'll do that, and then she has free time after that where she can pretty much do whatever, and it makes it so much easier. We have a very concentrated, focused time, reading, writing, math, whatever it is for the day. And then other than that, she can do whatever she wants. We can go outside. We can go to the pool. There's a pool across the street from us in the summertime. We do that. Go to the pool. She'll go to a friend's house, whatever. She has gymnastics. She'll go to gymnastics. And it's just like, it's easy. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't always easy because it took me a while to like figure out this, but a lot of it came from me just being like, you can calm down. You don't have to bring school home. It's a different dynamic. You know what I mean?
Good points. Yes, good points. So I see a couple questions. Are you sharing those pages? Again, everything that we're going to share is going to come in an email after this, and you're going to get a whole bunch of goodies and resources. So make sure that if you're on here, you're already registered, but if you share this with friends, have them register too so they can get all the good, yummy resources. Unique. So will you speak to that? What does your day look like with Aiden? So I told you, is Monday different from Friday?
Yeah, so Aiden is an athlete. So the great thing about homeschooling is that he gets to train during the day. And he also, he swims. So he swims twice a week. Tuesday is open swim. And well, he doesn't do Thursday swim now because Thursday is a day that he goes to co-op. So Thursday is pretty much just a co-op day, and they're learning different subjects. And then when he comes home, he usually has a play date. He might go to a friend's house, or they go hiking or whatever on Thursdays. He trains probably Wednesday, Friday. He does Mandarin twice a week. So yeah, that's pretty much our day. Like he starts school every day at 9, but sometimes it differs. So I've been trying to educate him on this whole virus thing, right? So we've been watching videos late at night. So like 2 nights ago, he stayed up till like 12, just watching movies and stuff like that. So I let him sleep until 12 o'clock the next day. I try to let him get 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. So, you know, that helps too with him being homeschooled. It varies.
My mom, I need somebody to let me sleep 10 to 12 hours a night.
Yeah. And he does, even though he tries not to go to sleep. But once he's sleeping, I'll let him sleep because that helps with, you know, the body and him being athletic and the things he eats and, you know, stuff like that. So for the most part, he starts at 9. Some days, he might go to sleep later. He might wake up later, you know? So if he's going to sleep at 10, I'll probably wake him up at 10. But his bedtime is 9 o'clock.
Okay. So you stick to a wake up time and a sleep time, and and then you allow for some flexibility throughout the day.
Yeah. So yeah, like
Sarah, how about you? Do you do the same?
Sorry, I was trying to answer somebody's question about multiple children.
So we're gonna have a Q&A time because if anyone has questions, I'm sure everyone would. Okay. So feel free to use the chat, but we'll also address some of those same questions towards the end of this.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. Can you repose what am I answering?
So Unique was talking about her as in my research, I'm finding that they're called anchors, that we need to anchor throughout the day things for our kids, even if we allow for their schedule to have some flexibility in it. Right. Kids do find more confidence in a routine, in somewhat of a routine, or in some predictability of what's going to happen. And so what Unique was saying is that she has her wake up time and her night time are some of the anchors that she uses, although she'll allow flexibility in her structure. So what I was asking you in creating a schedule for Emma, do you have any anchors? Are they wake up and bedtime? And if not, what else are they?
Yeah, so that's one of them actually. So Emma has an alarm that she sets for herself, which she determined for herself. So that's what I found that to be helpful in getting her to do things, which is still, I mean, it's like an ongoing friggin' process, like trying to keep her on task, especially because she's very leisurely. Like she likes to take all her time and be leisurely and do you not?
Look
at her face.
She loves it. She's the most leisurely person in the world. Like stop and smell the roses to the fullest. So it's a constant challenge. But
can you come here?
Oh, I was like, what happened? But yeah, I find that it does help to have the anchors, but not only that, but to let her determine what those are. You know what I mean? So she decided she wants to get up at 9. I think her alarm goes off a little before 9 now, right?
Okay.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. So she decided 8 o'clock. I decided her bedtime is 8. She has to be lights off by 9, like in the bed by 8, lights off by 9. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not happen, but that's what we always aim for. And then she just knows that she has certain things to do throughout the day. But that's always been the case. Like you have to wash up, you have to get dressed, you have to make sure your room is tidy, you have to take your dog out, blah, blah, blah. But she determines how exactly that's going to look and when. She makes all her own food and snacks. The only thing she doesn't make for herself is dinner. So she decides when she's going to eat, and she decides how all of that is going to look. And she actually even wrote down a schedule for herself. And if she's ever like lollygagging too much, I'm like, Emma, are you referring to your schedule? She's like, oh, hold on, let me get it. And then she'll go and get herself back on task rather than be like, Emma, do this, now do this, and this, and this, and this. You know, it helps for her to decide for herself what she's going to do. And then she's more accountable to that schedule that she made for herself.
I just want to take a moment and applaud you both as parents and how independent your children are. I see Aiden coming in the shot now too. It's just so incredible. You know, I remember going to college and freshman year, you could tell whose parents coddled them and did too much for them and whose parents let their children have some freedom. Yeah. And, you know, there's something to be said about a child that is free to be themselves and who can figure themselves out, especially while they have the support of you at home, and not when they're just forced to do it when they're off in college and now it's like you're 18 and like figure it all out now. So like applause. Excellent. Good job, moms. And so the last question I want to ask you guys that we can spend the next 5 minutes on before Rose joins us is about how, now that we're on this, on the East Coast, like I said, for everyone that's joining us, and we got a good number of you guys on. Thanks for joining us, y'all. We're on the East Coast. We're all in the New York, New Jersey area, and we are on a suggested quarantine, and it looks like we may be going into some type of lockdown for a few weeks. We're really not sure. We're trying to get all the news on that, but this will be happening in other markets as well. And so maybe you are already in the same situation, or maybe you're preparing, and that's why you're on this call. But I just want to talk to you guys about what the difference is between your homeschooling now with all of this quarantine and lockdown situation. How will you shift and make differences now that we have this in place that you didn't necessarily have to give regards to before the lockdown?
Is that's for me and Unique, or?
That's for you and Unique, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's not so much different. I think the biggest thing is that we can't go see anybody. You know what I mean? Obviously, but with regards to what we do every day, it's fairly similar. I mean, we just can't go out to do activities, which makes it a little bit more like I myself yesterday was like, I am getting a little stir crazy. Like, I have got to get out. It's like just sitting in the same place doing the work and being like, okay, but also that giving me perspective on how kids probably feel. So I feel like even though you're not supposed to leave, you still got to go out, like go for walks during the day, like just get some fresh air, go on the balcony, whatever, in the backyard. Like let yourself have a moment to get some nature and fresh air. And it also makes it, I feel like if you're too much in the house, I don't know, like, I don't know how everybody feels, but it feels like surreal to me. Like, this isn't what is happening? And so I really have to like get my mental together and like check myself and give myself a minute to do some more normal-ish things, right? So it's not that we necessarily are going to the park or anything like that, but yeah, like trying to get out of the house is important. And other than that, I feel like it's pretty much the same, you know what I mean?
Okay. Good stuff. I have a comment that I want to make, but I want to give Unique a chance to give us her take on that as well. And then if we have time, I'll circle back around with my little 2 cents. So Unique, how about you? How is this different from traditional homeschooling with the situation that we're in now?
It's different because...
Oh, we lost your picture, babe. We just have your name up. I'm not sure if...
Is it there? That's it?
Oh, you're back. Okay, yes. So, we want to see your great sweater and your beautiful hair while you're talking. Come on.
Thank you. So yeah, he doesn't have co-op anymore, so he doesn't get to see his friends like he usually do. And sports, because he was in so many sports, like he has every day he was out interacting with other children, right? And so now he's not. The difference is I've been letting him go and play his video games, which I usually don't let him play during the week. So he's been doing that. For him, he says he thinks it's boring because he likes interaction with people, not just talking to them over a computer. And, you know, it's just, we all sacrificing, right? So that's just what it has to be for now. Because I'm not letting him go outside and play with his friends.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Am I on mute?
I hear you.
Oh, you hear me? Okay. I have so great point. I have a list of a couple things for play that were recommended from a couple of the experts that I researched before this. So building a fort, painting, playing board games, hide and seek, write a story, act the story out, create a dance routine, play with dolls, play dress up, make outfits, do your doll's hair, constructing something with provided materials like, hey, I'm about to give you this wire, this paper, and these erasers. Make a sculpture are all just a few suggestions. We're going to include more of them in the resource list that we send out to you guys after this call. You'll expect to get it by tomorrow. But these are all suggestions. If you have other suggestions suggestions, please type them in the chat box because we would love that. Taking a yoga break, a dance break. I'm sure we'll come up with some other suggestive or some other suggestions which would be helpful. But creative time and play are not always prioritized, but they are so good for our kids. They help us to improve our gross and fine motor skills, our social skills, their scientific exploration and discovery, their artistic expression, but it also helps them to process emotionally what's going on in their minds. And right now, there's a lot, our kids are hearing what's going on and maybe they don't fully understand it, but they really need that time in their day to release. So please, if you don't take anything away from this, I want you to understand that in homeschooling, allow your children that space. So that quick one more question, and then we'll get to Rose and start talking about how do we get stuff done in the day, because we're taking care of our kids, but a lot of you guys on here, you have jobs, you have businesses. Unique and Sierra, we'll talk a bit about your businesses towards the end also, but you guys do all of this and you're business owners. So we're going to get into that in just a couple minutes. But before we go into that space, just my last question of, are you scheduling a certain amount of time in your day that's dedicated to creative time and play, or is that something that you just let be flexible? And is it every day that you're doing that? So that's for Sierra and Unique.
Oh, Sierra, you could go first. I was trying to create.
I got all the kid questions happening over here. So you said, do I block out time in my day for my own work?
No, not to your own. We're going to talk about that in a second, but do you block out time in your day specifically in Emma's day? Do you block out time that's specifically dedicated to her creative time and her play, or does she kind of get it when she gets it?
Yeah, no, she kind of does it whenever she feels. Okay, so let me paint a picture. Most of Emma's day is her playing. She doesn't have a lot. It's more so that time is blocked out for more structured work, which is a very small chunk of time, like an hour and a half tops, and most of it is just her doing her other things that need to get done. Again, making sure she washes up and she, is taking care of her dog and she's making sure her room is clean. But other than that, she just kind of does whatever she feels like doing. and she has she would love to be on her iPad all day, but she has limits for that, right? So if she's not allowed to be on her iPad or she's used up her time, also her limits for her iPad are on her own accord as well. So she has an hour and an hour that she can be on any screen. That's TV, iPad, computer, whatever it is. Screen time period can only be 1 hour and 1 hour, and it has to be 2 hours break in between those 2 hours. So she can use them however she wants. And she's very good about being okay, I'm going to set myself a 20-minute timer. I'm going to spend 20 minutes listening to audiobooks. And then I know that I have 40 minutes left for this hour. So she's great about that. And then we'll have a thing where I'm like, Emma, I'm always available to her. I'm always sitting in my room or sitting on the couch or sitting wherever doing my own stuff or getting my stuff together. And she comes in all day long and is talking to me, seeing what I'm doing, sitting with me. But we have a time that we meet. And so that's either 1:30. So we'll decide what time we're going to meet today. Meet me at 1:30, meet me at 2:30, meet me at whatever time is good for both of us. And that's when we sit down and do her more structured stuff. And then we also have some one-on-one time together where we play. I make sure I give her some concentrated time to play with me, to talk to me, to do whatever it is she wants to do. She be having me play Star Wars characters. It's my least favorite thing to do, but sometimes
you laugh when you play that.
We laugh.
You like it. Stop lying, Mom.
Oh my God. So, but she loves it, so that's what we do. Or we will, sometimes we play chess, we'll play Mancala, we'll do whatever. Sometimes we just talk, play hand games. We make up goofy hand games and stuff like that. And then other than that, she literally just does whatever she wants until she has to start getting ready for bed, which is around 6 o'clock.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Good stuff. Unique, can you give us, I don't want to scoot over the time too much, but I just want to catch Roseanne while we have her, but can you give us your answer to that as well on how playtime is structured in your household?
So Aiden has a trampoline in his classroom. So if he needs to exert some energy, he's jumping on there. He could go take his dog outside. I usually don't play with him during the day. His dad does. So like he'll be in there playing with his dad, doing all that type of stuff. I'm more like, let's get the work done, or I'm doing my own stuff. So during the day, I don't really play with him. There's no interaction with play between me and Aiden during
That's
school
you got to
hours.
get your stuff done too, and so that is actually a very good transition into Rose.
Yeah.
I just put in the chat really quickly Lakeshore Learning. That is unique. If we have time for you to show your classroom, I would love for everyone to see what it's set.
I'm on the computer. How can I do that?
Lakeshore Learning is a great resource if you want to get, who knows how long this thing is going to last, especially if it's through June. If you want to pick up some in-home learning supplies for your child, Lakeshore Learning has a whole catalog. You can build a whole room, a whole classroom in your house, or you can just pick up notebooks, workbooks, and things like that. But it's a really great resource and tool too. So Roseanne, Ro, as we call you, welcome. You got to take yourself off mute, please. Hello, beautiful. Rose is a productivity coach and lifestyle planner, and she is going to give us some tips on how to actually get ish done with these kids home. So let me just first take a second for you to say hello to everyone before I dig in and start asking you questions.
Yes. Hello, parents. I'm so glad that you're taking the time to come here for the access in the community. We're going to get through this together, we promise. We're going to give you as many tips as we can, but it's all about community. You know, like Sierra and Unique were saying, they can't go out as much as they used to, but we can create a virtual community. So I just want to thank you, Amber, for creating this platform so that we can come together, share resources, cry together if we need to, do a virtual hug.
Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. And if we need to, guys, if you need to mute yourselves, feel free to. So, because I know there's background noise, and you'll catch me going on and off of mute too, because my kids are in the background. So, okay, my first question for you, Rose, thank you for joining us, is how can we manage our expectations of what we can expect to get done for ourselves while our children are home from school?
So Amber, I think that's a great question. And I think a part of the solution is in the question. We have to manage expectations and set realistic expectations. So, you know, this is new territory for a lot of us. Sierra and Unique, they're the pros, they're the experts. They've been doing this. They shared amazing tips. But for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're doing it. Maybe some of us considered doing it, and now we get to pilot so that we test it out and try it on and see if we like it. But for others, you had no intention of doing it. So I think it's important for you to think about what you could accomplish in a normal day and divide that in half, right? So think about when you had a baby. Everything takes more time when you have children. Maybe when you were alone, you'd get dressed in 20, 30 minutes. But then once you had a child, it's, okay, so I need formula or breast milk. I need extra clothes just in case they mess up. I need toys because at that age, you know, we're thinking about if they need to distract something, so we need toys and activities. So all of these things that you have to do take extra time. It's no different now. So don't set these unrealistic expectations, some of them which are coming from the school, because if I show you what a 5-year-old has to accomplish, I'm like, in how much time? So I just want you to manage your expectations and set realistic expectations. I'm going to throw out a lot of tools and tips and content, but because it's such a diverse audience, if you're taking notes, only write down what applies to you and what resonates with you. I don't want it to be information overload or for you to become overwhelmed. If I say something that's for a toddler and you have a teenager, it's a different dynamic, so it doesn't apply to you. But there's certain things that you can take and tweak. So we're gonna get through this. Manage expectations. I would always suggest that you make a list. Do a list of things that you have to accomplish and have 1 or 2 things that are ideal and that are urgent. So one should be for you. Maybe it's, I'm going to sit by myself for 10 minutes drinking tea, or I'm going to open my window, get some fresh air over on the side, and that's my mommy time, right? That's my me time. And then the other thing can be, well, the child has to do English, science, this, that. Since this has to be done today, let me make it a priority by doing it in the morning, or let me make sure that I set time to do it. Everything else, we just have to be flexible. For example, my kid normally takes a nap in daycare around 12 p.m., but I knew I had this call today, so I said, okay, we're gonna play, and then at 2 o'clock, when I need you to be hushed, I'm gonna send you to sleep, right? So you just have to be flexible. Structure is great because kids want to make sure that they have a consistent schedule so they can predict what's coming next, but flexibility is also key. And one last thing I'll say is harmony for me is major. I do productivity coaching, and it's always important for everyone to be in harmony. All the things need to work together. I'm working from home, and it's not a reduced schedule. I'm on a break right now. So everything that I would normally do between my 8:15 and 4:45 shift, I'm expected to do it, even though I took on a whole new challenge of homeschooling my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old. So I want you to be flexible. I want you to give yourself grace and make realistic expectations.
A lot of good stuff in that answer, Rose. Thank you.
Sure.
I also want to say that, hold on, what do I want to say? I was just about to say something. About the flexibility. It allows for us to not get so frustrated with our children as well.
Absolutely.
When we are able to kind of figure this out together with our kids of what our schedule looks like, and manage our expectations, then we don't have those outbursts at our kids where it's just like, could you just sit down somewhere? You know,
Right.
So another suggestion of what's worked for me, and Rose, I'd love to hear your feedback on this, but waking up earlier or going to sleep later. I found that to find my uninterrupted time in working, that I really need to get up either earlier, start my day at like 5:30 a.m., where I don't usually start my day until 7. I got to get up earlier, or sometimes I work until 4 or 5 at night and then let myself wake up a little bit later, because I'm like, I still have somewhat of the same amount of work to do within my business now, even though my kids are home. So I can't expect to get all that done while my kids are up. I found it really helpful, Rose, that you said cut your productivity time in half. That's pretty accurate, because it's like, your time is not all yours. So good stuff. Okay, my next question for you is, what are some you just gave it, make your lists. Those are some time management tips that you can share with us to make the most of our time. Lists, I know, are very important. I've worked with Rose. You've given me productivity coaching, which was very, very helpful for me in how to form my days. And making those lists is important. And what I recognize is that I was putting too much on the list. And so focusing on the 1 or 2 or 3 top things to get done are really more realistic ways of managing our expectations. But what else? What are other ways that we can, some other time management tips or tools that you have for us?
Sure. So I'll definitely give a bunch of tactical productivity tips. But before doing that, I want to do 2 things. I want you to redefine productivity, right? So maybe before, productivity for you looked like, well, I'll talk for myself. My morning commute, I live in Jersey, I'm in Bayonne, but I work in New York City. I commute for an hour and change each way, right? That commute was critical for me. I got so much done. Sometimes it would be working on my business. Sometimes it would be doing whatever spiritual thing I wanted to do, whether it was reading the Bible or something like that. And then other times it would be taking a nap if I took the bus in. And then I have an hour lunch break, and I would do coaching calls during my break. I would do different activities during my break. So now that I'm working from home, I lose that time, but I also gain time back, right? So you have to look at it from both perspectives. You don't have the 1 hour by yourself anymore, but you also don't have to get up, get dressed, and leave the home. So I want you to think of what needs to get done and just adjust to this new norm, right? So for me, I realized that we have perfection habits, right? Everyone wants everything to be perfect. You need to get rid of that. Get rid of the obsession with perfection and just embrace the change. One of the things that really is important to me is mindset. A lot of times we feel like victims, and we're really victors. If you change your mindset, you'll realize that things don't happen to you, they happen for you, right?
Oh, Joel Osteen, this is
things happen for you. So for me, I remember, like, I want to transition to full-time, to working for myself, right? I do have a 9-to-5 job, like I mentioned. And sometimes I would go through the mommy guilt, like, I don't spend enough time with my kids. I wish I didn't have to spend so much time commuting. Well, hello, no commute. So look at it that way. Things are happening for me. I'm getting to test this out with no obligation, right? So yes, it was mandated. Yes, it was forced, but I'm not a victim. I am going to come out victorious, and you are going to come out victorious in the situation too. So don't feel like a victim. Don't feel like something happened to you. It happened for you. Make the best of it. If you ever felt like, oh, I don't have enough time for my children, I wish I could see them more, here you are. So instead of saying, they're getting on my nerves, I'm so tired, I can't do anything, embrace the change and embrace the time that you have with them.
I love it. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Invite Unique and Sierra to weigh in on their productivity and how they stay productive too. But so I'm going to get to that question in a second. But just before that, I want to give you a chance to weigh in from earlier when I asked them about what their homeschooling schedules were. You know, and knowing what I know about you, you're a lot more structured in your day and your schedule. And so you have two sons, Afnil and Hadar, and they are
3 and 5.
3 and 5, I'm sorry, 3 and 5 years old. And so what does and you have not only a full-time job, you also have your coaching business and you do work with a couple other professionals on the side. So what in this new shift into homeschooling, what does your day look like for you and for your kids?
Okay, so again, you want to customize everything. You know, Amber mentioned that for her, because she's a night person, she can stay up late. I'm a geriatric old person. I cannot stay up late. 8:30, 9 o'clock, I want to be in the bed, but I'm a morning person. So Sierra also talked about, you know, a lot of people say, you have to wake up an hour before your kids. You have to stay up late. If that works for you because you need your personal time, by all means, wake up in the morning earlier than they do or stay up later. But you can also train your children. Say to them, hey, honey, mommy needs a minute. And at this time, that's where flexibility comes in. So you say to the children, mommy needs some time. Mommy goes to do whatever she needs to do, whether it's make a phone call, sit, breathe, drink tea, relax, and then the children get their free time. So a lot of times we don't realize that the meltdowns and the tantrums come from distractions. We don't like being interrupted. That's why we say, mommy needs a minute, you know, I'm on the phone, I'm doing something. But when we switch them from task to task, that's also a distraction, that's an interruption. Those transitions are what usually set a child off. So it's the same thing with us. If we say to them, mommy needs a minute, then we're training them to understand mommy needs space, mommy needs time, but also for them, we need to recognize that structure is important because we want them to feel safe, we want them to feel secure, but also manage those transitions so they're not like, okay, now we're doing math, now we're doing English, now we're doing science. That's just too much. You're gonna stress them out. So for my schedule, I do wake up earlier, and I like to, my schedule actually starts the day before, right? So I like to do a brain dump the night before and plan out what needs to happen the next day. So I'm setting my intentions the night before. I may not write everything down, but I plan it out. So I'll say, what are the kids going to eat tomorrow? Bacon and eggs or oatmeal? And then I don't have to write it down because I already figured it out. So the next morning, I'm not scrambling, oh my gosh, what are they going to eat? I'm out of sugar, I'm out of this, I don't have bacon. I already thought about it the night before, so my morning starts off smoother. Anyone who needs to know about gratitude, Amber is the person to talk to. If you want to do your gratitude session in the morning, whether that's your praise and worship, your meditation, your reflection, journaling, whatever it is, it sets the day. This morning I had 4 songs on YouTube and the kids were just singing, and you know, they were singing songs of Thanksgiving, and it sets the tone. So I do that, and then we do breakfast together, we clean up together, and then the 5-year-old, he has a full structure. So he has to do math, he has to do science. We'll choose which one needs to be done depending on the workload or what's happening, right? So if my workload is too busy and I can't have him on YouTube making noise, then I might have him do a quiet activity. Sometimes I separate the kids. One will be in the office doing something on the laptop, and the other one will be in the living room watching something on YouTube. Or I'll have both of them do something together. Okay, so now it's time to color. Now it's nap time. Now it's lunchtime. But I really want to lean into the point of customize it. You can Google, you can look on social media, you'll see a ton of schedules. But if that doesn't work for you, do not try to force yourself in it, right? If you're a square, don't try to fit into a circle. Do what works for you. And that's what I loved about what Unique said. She said, okay, so today's Monday, school starts next Monday. She gave herself time. So that's my suggestion to you too. Give yourself grace, allow yourself some time to adjust.
Yes, and compassion, because you're trying to figure this out.
You're trying to figure it out.
Tips that I found when I was doing my research was also, instead of using our words to speak to what we want for our kids, using our environments. And so setting up your environment for them to be productive, thinking before they get up, having, like with my son, because he's not going to do as much schoolwork, I have to reach out for him to work on that day. So I have, I'm like, oh, let me put the puzzles out, or let me put the crayons out. And I have things set up so that he's not coming to me, mommy, 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 in between everything, because his attention is now on, oh, look at all these fun things that I can do.
And he's feeding off your energy too. If you're frustrated and stressed out, then he's not going to be as calm as you want him to be. So they're learning from us. They're learning how to deal with transitions, how to deal with change. So use this as a teachable moment. So, things have changed. This is what we're doing now, but we adjust to it.
Yes. Good tips. Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left because I told you guys I was only going to keep you till 3:15, and I know you're busy and you got your kids at home. So I want to ask you to start preparing your questions by putting them in the chat now. So if you don't know yet, the chat is to the bottom right of the screen. If you're watching this recorded, unfortunately, you won't be able to ask questions, but you should have joined us live, but at least you still get to watch this. Yay. So I want to give Unique and Sierra just a couple minutes. Let's do like 1 minute each. If you can just talk to us about how you stay productive throughout homeschooling and how you get your business done. And actually, I'm going to add an extra 30 seconds onto that for you to tell us what you do, because I want everyone to know what you do as well. And at the end, we'll tell people how to find you. So what you do for a living and how you make time to get your work done while homeschooling.
Sure. Okay. So I'm really a cake decorator by trade. And so I do that, and I'm actually, transitioning into a blog which will have a focus on cake decorating for moms, like people who just, I think I was telling you about this, Amber, like people who just want to make cakes, like birthday cakes, celebration cakes for their kids, something simple. So I used to teach like professional cake decorators. So now it's going to be a little more like Martha Stewart-ish kind of thing. And that's called the millennialishmom.com, which is coming soon. But then also I make toothpaste. And I'm laughing because it's like such a random other thing. So I have a toothpaste company, whitening toothpaste called Coco and Cole. That's cocoandcole.com. So I work on that stuff during the day. And then homeschool Emma. So how I stay productive is, I think, so the biggest thing that I've learned is like not trying to do, thank you, women, like not trying to do everything is for me was a hard one, lesson, like, cause I would have a list 2 miles long and be so frustrated with myself at the end of the day that I didn't get every single thing on the list done. And eventually I had to be like, okay, so everything may not be perfect. My house may not look pristine, and I maybe didn't comb my hair today. That's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Or even with her, like some days we don't do structured homeschool at all because I'm just like, I just can't today. You know what I mean? Or certain things may not happen. And I've learned to like, let the extras go, like find where there's like 3 things or 6 things that are going to really move the needle forward, then I'm going to do that. And then everything else can wait. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of productivity people who talk about this and everybody has like a different way of doing it. But Rose, you probably know about this, where you make like a quadrant, basically. You make like 4 squares and you put like what has to get done, like what is urgent and has to get done. Yeah. What is not urgent, but you want to do. What can like wait, you don't really need to do. It's just like extras. And then I forget what the third box is, but it's basically like what is important but
so it's important but not urgent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we could probably put that in the resources as well, because I know you know about this. So I started actually taking on that philosophy, and I don't always put it in quadrants, but the way that I break down my to-do list, is in that way. Aiden. I found very helpful, and that's mostly how I stay productive. Is I just try to prioritize what's going to move the needle forward instead of just doing a bunch of crap. And at the end of the day,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
today, but it didn't. I don't feel good about it, and it didn't really like. You know what I'm saying? Like I vacuumed. Oh my god, like that's amazing.
Last 4 digits of the social, please.
Suffering.
We have a little interference. I'm not sure if one of us needs to mute, but We have just, oh, Rose. Okay. Yeah. So we had a little interference, but yeah, no, that's so true. Cause otherwise we'll end up focusing on stuff, especially being from home. You end up focusing on stuff that you don't really need to get done because it's easier to do that than to eat that frog, as they say.
Eat the frog. That's what I was about to say. Yeah. Eat the frog. Like do the stuff that you don't want to do or is going to move the needle forward is the biggest thing first.
Yeah.
Aiden.
Yeah. Okay, Unique, give us some of your, how do you get work done and how do you stay productive?
Don't go back upstairs after you're done. Just go back into your classroom. Go ahead, Botti, go outside. Sorry, this is part of making sure Aiden walks his dog. Okay, what was the question again?
So the question is, how do you stay productive while you are homeschooling, and how do you get stuff done? What are some of your tips and advice?
I try to get things done while he's on the computer because that is the time where I don't have to really help him much until we're doing our group projects. He always makes me lose my train of thought. Please go.
What's wrong with your face? I just bring it.
All right, Aiden.
Because I heard you saying earlier, I thought that was really key that Aiden's father is who you guys tag team each other, and he keeps him busy.
Yeah, but he doesn't teach. He doesn't teach. Yeah, I can't get him to do But
Aiden knows to kind of leave you alone during the day when you have to get some of your work done and to self-manage himself is part of what we were doing earlier, right?
So that's pretty much it. I'll try to get things done during the day. Or I'll just have to wait until he goes to bed. Like last night, I was working until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I was back up at 9. So I am the one that stays up late to get my own work done at night while he's sleeping. Or, I'll wake up in the morning before he wakes up sometime, and then I'll go back to sleep before he wakes up. So, it's just how my body wakes me up or whatever I need to get done, prioritizing like that.
I hear so much of flexibility, and that's something that I think we can't really stress enough is that through this time we have to allow ourselves to be flexible in that some people get so regimented and so but this is what it was, and the more you hold on to that old way, the more stressful ushering into this new way of life. That is what it is. It's inevitable. It's uncontrollable. It's what we just have to deal with for the next few weeks or months, however long this goes, but allowing for flexibility. So I hear you saying that, and I think that that's a really great takeaway for a lot of the other parents who are on with us. Okay, so I want to get to some questions, and these questions can be for either of us. Alicia, I love Alicia. She's so funny. Hey, girl, hey. Alicia says, how do you not get irritated with your kids wanting to be next to you? As Emma stands on the side of the screen.
As I just let Aiden irritate me because he's supposed to walk this dog 20 minutes ago.
You know what? And it's not even that kids are irritating. It's that being a mom, everybody, the husband, the boyfriend, the dogs, all the people, the kids want to be on your head at all possible times. And so that's a big thing. Being, moms always say being touched out. I just don't want nobody to touch me. Don't even look this way. Just go that way. But I think what helps with that is not that taking time to yourself, obviously, but some people, not everybody can do that, or not everybody's in that place. But she's funny. Emma's a comedian.
She's I'm going to be extra on you now that you're answering.
But I think a big thing, Emma loves hugs and Emma loves to be cuddled and touched and be around you, right? So I think for me, what I've learned to do is make sure, and this has been something that I've known about since she was little and I tried to do, but I really have to do now, is make sure that I'm giving her undivided attention for some part of the day. So it's this concept of I'm trying to get things done. I'm trying to manage the house. I'm trying to take care of myself. And so I'm giving her attention, but it's irritated attention or divided attention, or I'm, oh, that's nice. That's good. Okay, go do what you're supposed to be doing, which is, I do that a lot too. But then that's why we have our meeting time. Where and this was something that she came and expressed to me. I don't feel like I'm getting enough time with you. I said, okay, so what can we do about that? And it was actually her idea. So we have a time that we meet and she gets a certain amount of my time, 45 minutes to an hour. It's not even that much. every day. And it started out with 30 minutes because I was like, I ain't got all that time. But like it started out with 30 minutes. And she expressed she wanted a little more. So now it's 45 minutes. Sometimes it goes to an hour where I put my phone away. I put my devices away. And it's just her, everything has to go away. And if I get on my phone, she gets on my head about it immediately. And I just play with her, do what she wants, pay attention to her, hug her, cuddle her, whatever. And then she's like good after that. She doesn't always need to be up under me. So it's like that quality versus quantity, you know?
Good. No, that's really good stuff. And I agree. The same thing, and I call it something different. It's not our meeting time, but what I found with Jonna, as she's doing her work and she needs help, I tell her to save her questions till the end. And then, so at the end, then I know that I need to go and answer her questions, because otherwise she's like, Mommy, I'm trying to figure out this. Mommy, I'm trying to figure out that. And as she's waiting, what she's finding is that she finds the answer before she has to ask it sometimes. So it's allowing for her to be a bit more independent than she used to be. So Unique, how about you?
What was the question? I'm over here answering other people's questions on the back end, but
just about how you don't get irritated with Aiden, or let him irritate you throughout the day. What are some tips or tools or advice that you have?
So actually, one of Aiden's pediatrician told me this when he was a baby, that it's okay to let your kid cry so that you don't harm the child or yourself. You leave them in a room and you go in another room and you just let them cry. So this is when Aiden was a few months, and I carry that on to now. So I separate myself. Like earlier today, I just went and I took a bath and I locked the door, so you have to make that time for yourself, because everybody will be outside the door waiting. I'm not dry and I come out and it's like, oh, I'm hungry. Can you help me with this? The dog wants a snack. So you just have to remove yourself from everything to keep your sanity.
Yeah. Good. Okay, Rose, do you want to weigh in on that before we move on to the next question? And I just want to say thanks for somebody say y'all are the best looking panelists I've seen. Thanks. Even though we're at home with these kids and work. So yes, we celebrate and receive. All right, Rose, how about you? How do you keep the boys from driving you bonkers?
So for anyone who joined in late, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I am surprised at how emotionally intelligent children are. When I communicate with them and I explain to them what's going on versus, snapping at them or getting upset because I haven't told them or communicated what I need from them, it's a much different situation. So it depends on what you're doing, right? So if you're working, I would say teach them what you're doing or employ them. So for example, Sierra, if you're doing a cake, have Emma get the supplies for you or make something for you. That's what I do with breakfast. Okay, we're making eggs.
Her own stuff. This
Go get your own batch, right?
Her own fondant on a little tray on the side with a little rolling pin. And
right.
While I was making cakes, we did that all the time.
Exactly. So I would say try to incorporate them when it's possible, when it is realistic for you to do so, but also set up boundaries. Say to them, Mommy needs to work. It's not that Mommy doesn't love you. And again, I'm talking to a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. If you have older kids, you don't have to speak to them like that, right? But I would always explain to them the boundaries and explain to them why I'm doing something. Remember that toy you wanted? Mommy has to work so that Mommy can buy that toy. So when you connect things, then they understand. So now it's like, oh, well, go ahead, girl, get to work because I need my toy, right? So I would definitely bring them into what you're doing. Employ them if you can, because we're modeling something. They want to see, oh, so that's what it means to be a CEO. That's what it means to be a boss. That's what it means to work from home. So you're teaching them, if Mommy was in the office, you wouldn't have access to me right now. So Mommy's going to work for 2 hours or for 1 hour, whatever time you said, you cannot disturb me, right? And if it is that they're starving because their love language is quality time, or, they do need physical touch, I would say, when it is feasible, take a break, do a dance break, because that's going to help you too. That's going to switch up your mood and your energy so that you're not so tense. Do a laugh break. A lot of times we forget about the power of small steps. I wanted to take my kids on a walk today during my lunch break. And after we did lunch, I had 30 minutes left. I said, you know what, guys, we're still going to take a walk, but we're not going to walk for 20 minutes. We're not going to walk for 30 minutes. We're going to walk for 10 minutes. So don't forget the power of small steps. You're not always going to find an hour. You're not always going to find 2 hours. But if you break things up into bite-sized pieces and say, listen, I have a project that's due. I have 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 5 minutes of undivided attention. That's all I can give you. And then when you do have more, you give it to them. So I would just say boundaries, communicate, break up your things into bite-sized pieces, give them your undivided attention when you can. But they grow up so fast, so make the most of it.
Yeah, really good tips. And we're going to include these again. For those of you who don't know, I know it's 3:15, so some of you have to jump off. However, we are going to stay on for another couple of minutes and answer the rest of the questions that I did find in the Q&A box. And so if you have to hop off, don't worry. We're going to send you, by tomorrow, you'll get the list of resources from this. And so we'll include stuff like the list that Rose just gave to us and the link that Unique has for the homeschooling and the coloring pages that Sierra has done. We're going to put as much juiciness in there as we can and share it with you tomorrow. So we had a question. One of the questions was about resources for 2-year-olds. So just to mention, I'm going to mention it, but you'll see this in what I just mentioned in the package or in the email that'll come to you. Lakeshore, like I mentioned, Lakeshore has for all ages. Lakeshore Learning has great tools for 2-year-olds learning. Like I have, my 2-year-old has these blocks and they have words on them and they have letters and you have to put, it's like a puzzle. You have to put the letters in to spell the word. And so that's one of his assignments that he does throughout the day when he's working on his spelling and his reading. And I got that from Lakeshore. So that's a good one. And greatschools.org is another great one as well. Greatschools.org has age-appropriate learning for each child or for each age of a child. And they have a whole list. I think a lot of these websites, abclearning.com, they're free right now because they recognize what we're going through. And I'm sure they want to get you hooked. And so afterwards, they won't be free anymore. But take advantage of them right now and use their free resources. So that leads us to one of our last questions. Lashada asked about how much time for online and offline learning? And I see Unique answered, Aiden's on the computer 2 hours a day. So that's your online learning. And offline, it sounds like he's just kind of always learning, but Unique, I want to shoot that over to you and get your answer and also get the other ladies to weigh in as well.
Yeah, so I had put that Aiden usually is on a computer 2 hours a day doing his schoolwork. Because he always have after school activities, he doesn't have a chance to go back on the computer. Now that he's been home, like last night, I let him play his video game for an hour before he went to bed so that he can have some type of interaction with other children. But I don't recommend a bunch of TV and all that stuff because I don't let him watch it, whether we are quarantined or not. That's just me. I'm not big on screen time. So I do limit it. So about 3 hours now, and that's including work and play while we're quarantining.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Sierra, Rose, you guys want to weigh in?
Can I say something? I just want to say, because for me, if I see people's schedules, and it's like so funny because I did have that type of schedule when I first started with Aiden, and we don't have that kind of schedule now because it's a lot. It's like no way you can do a whole full year with that schedule. You know, you'll be burnt out. But what I found helpful is Alexa. So if you have Alexa in your house, plug it in right next to your student while they're doing their work and let them ask Alexa the questions that they don't need to ask you. If there's a word, so Aiden has his own Alexa. Alexa wakes him up in the morning. Google is my best friend. Alexa is his best friend. And he asks her everything. He asks her jokes of the day. You know, she entertains him. If there's a word that he doesn't know, he'll ask Alexa, what does it mean? How to put it in a sentence and things like that. Because those little things will, you know, like the kid just don't have to ask you every question. And for me, I don't like him to ask me what's the definition of a word because I'm giving him my definition. I'm not giving him the dictionary's definition. So that's how it goes in my house. Like, don't ask me a definition of a word. Go to the dictionary or ask Alexa and let her give you the proper definition. And, you know, it's so many questions that you might not know as a parent. I'm learning every day with him. So I tell people, like, I'm homeschooling too, because I'm learning all over again what I might have forgot. So if he asks me a question, a lot of times I don't know the answer. So go to Alexa and ask her, or let me Google it and let me find out the answer to it, because it'll stress you out as a parent. All day you're like catering to your child, and now you have to cater to them doing schoolwork too. So if you have Alexa, let your child borrow it for the next month.
Such a good tip. And like, I already see comments in the chat, like, I'm going to get Alexa like now. I didn't want to buy Alexa because I was like conspiracy theorist, but Alexa is about to be my kid's best friend.
Yeah. I mean, you can unplug it, but you know, as far as like asking questions like that, it's helpful.
Very good. That's a very good tip. Thank you for that.
So so with the 2-year-old, I put in there that somebody sent me the other day that ABC Mouse. I think you said ABC Learning, but you were talking about ABC Mouse. Right? Okay. So that was something that when Emma was little, like 2 years old, we always used ABC Mouse, but I think it goes up. I want to say it goes up to like 2nd grade. That was great and fun. She always did that on her iPad, and it has even though it's free now, even if you pay for it, it's like $8 a month. And so those are a lot of good fun games that your kids can do without you, because you can set it to the age that they're in, and they can go around in the little like virtual classroom and pick what kind of stuff they want to do. So that's a good one for 2-year-olds. And then as for what was the other? Oh, screen time versus online versus offline learning. Emma does not do a lot of online learning now, but when she was learning to read, she did a lot of Hooked on Phonics app too. That's actually how she learned to read. And then she did reading with me as well. But Hooked on Phonics app, that's like the old school from like the early 90s, which I never did when I was younger. But I mean, it's amazing. Like, it taught her to read, and it was so quick. And so like I would sit there with her and do it just to make sure she was understanding and you know, doing the right thing, and kind of just like course correct as she went along. But that app pretty much taught her to read. So that was awesome that's awesome for younger kids. Now she doesn't, besides audiobooks, you don't do anything online, right?
No.
She pretty much does nothing online. Like, everything is like pencil and paper, or like I said, I'll do some resources for her that I create, or we'll like read from books, or like we have different, I'll go and get like, these books are like $8, where it says like everything your 4th grader needs to know, or 3rd grade math. And so like we may work from those books just so I can make sure that she's on par with where she needs to be. And then, so most of our stuff, but also speaking to what Unique was saying about like kids asking questions, right? Like, when your kids go to school, they're going so that they can get information to use in their everyday lives or their adult lives, right? So like, if y'all are just living now and you're teaching them these things as they ask questions, because they got a ton of questions all day long, then that's like almost the same thing, right? So when Emma wants to know, what's my address? I don't know, you tell me what's your address, or let's talk about it, or let's write it down. How do I spell this? I don't know, you tell me how you spell it, you know? And so like a big thing with teaching Emma how to spell is like, I'll just say, okay, cool, like break it up into syllables. How many syllables? What are they? Start with the 1. How do you spell it? What time is it? I don't know. Let's look at the clock. You tell me what time it is. Like, I don't give her the answer to anything. Like, she constantly has to figure it out. Yeah. And that's a big way that we just, and sometimes like she used to get mad at that. Like, I don't want to spell it all the time. She thought it was so annoying, but I'm like, girl. But I would just tell her, you are homeschooled. Like, this is what you just learn all day long. Like, this is what it is. If you don't like it, then go to school. Like, and so, yeah. So now she doesn't complain about it. She already knows what's happening.
I don't have that option now. So now what? That's really good. I think that's really great. And that also takes up their time. And so then they can go. So instead of spending time bugging you, they now have to spend time figuring out the answer to their own question. Yeah. All right. So we're going to take this one last question. And then we're going to wrap, and we're going to tell you where to find us, and you're going to look for the lovely email from us tomorrow. But I just want to, out of respect for everybody's time, keep this shorter. So we have one last question. How do you give personal time for your kids if you have 3 and have to teach them and work? So when you say give personal time for your kids,
like spend personal time with each one.
With each of them? Yeah, if we're not clear on that, Stephanie, then go ahead and clarify what you mean by that. But yes, okay, so yeah, so she's saying, how do you give each of your kids personal time when you have to teach them and work? So
well, I only got one kid,
so I'll take that one and ask Rose to take that one as well. So for me, and this is one of the things that that I found when I was doing my research was there were schedules, and it has the same block of time, and it has the kids at the top, and each of the kids has a different type of schedule. So I know, like Lashada Shani made a comment that she has different age children, and so their days look different, but trying to kind of keep them in sync with what's expected is a part of, I think, what helps. So from 9 until noon, your 2-year-old or your 5-year-old or your 8-year-old, they might not be working on the same thing, but they're still expected to be working somewhat independently. And then when you have the time together, like for instance, we have in the morning, we're starting our morning with exercising together and walking the dog together. And so we're doing that together, and I'm, talking to them. And although it's not individual for them, it's my personal time with them. And then at lunchtime, that's also my personal time with them. Where I get their individual personal time, for me, it's been at bedtime. And so their bedtime routines are drastically different because my daughter can do so much more for herself than my son can. And so at bedtime, I'm reading my son a story while my daughter brushes her hair up and puts her little scarf on and puts all her lotion on. And, and then for my daughter, I'm taking the time after my son goes to bed, or sometimes before, because he doesn't always fall asleep. It doesn't always work that way. But I'm taking personal time with her. She wakes up before him in the morning. So instead of waking him up, now that they don't have to get to school, instead of waking him up to do the exercise with us, maybe he's just walking the dog with us, but then I'm exercising directly with her, and we're getting our personal time then. But girl, you have 3 of them, and I don't have an exact experience to tell you how to do 3, but that's how I manage my 2. So hopefully that helps. Rose, how about you?
Sure. So I have 2 as well, but what I would suggest is, depending on how close they are in age, you can try to teach the same content, but then make it more advanced. So for example, I have a 3-year-old. If I'm doing colors and the 3-year-old is showing me colors, he's pointing to colors, whereas the older one may be spelling the color. So I'll say to the 3-year-old, show me the color red, and then he'll show it to me, or I'll show him something red, and then he needs to tell me that it's red. But for the older one, I'll say, okay, now you spell the word red, and then he has to sound it out or blend it out. So depending on the age, you can kind of try to do the same activity, but just advance it for the older one. I think I saw one person who had like a 1-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 11-year-old. Maybe the 11-year-old can help you with the 1-year-old while you're working with the 6-year-old. So there are different ways to mix it up. But what I want to say is, for the ones of us who are doing this for the first time, there is no perfect way to do it, and we don't know what's expected. So what I would say is make this week a pilot, right? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, see what works and what doesn't work, and just keep tweaking it. So for the examples I just gave you, try the first one. Say, okay, so if this person is doing science, everyone else can come in. So maybe they need to learn scientific terms, where the other one just needs to know how to know what rain is, right? So one person can color or draw a rainy day or something like that. So I would just say keep tweaking, and then you can try to come up with a real norm. But for now, what works for me probably won't work for you, because we have different dynamics. So it's great to ask questions, but as we give them, just try to customize it and then let us know how it's working for you.
Great stuff. I mean, I just learned a lot in this last hour and a half, and I hope that everyone else did too. I just want to start by thanking you, Sierra and Unique and Rose, for joining us and for sharing not only your time, but your resources and your advice. This has just been so helpful. I see a lot of celebration happening in the chat, and I hear my phone buzzing. So I know that you guys are finding a lot in this, and I'm glad that you joined us. I hope that you'll share this recording with your friends. I keep seeing these "together we'll get through it" messages, and it's so true. Together we'll stay connected. Even though we can't be connected in person, we can still stay connected. So look out for that email. I'll do that Facebook page. And if you want to stay connected with our panelists, I just want to give everybody a second to, or a minute to talk about where you can find them. And I'll end with my last, where you can find me. And then we will wrap for the day, and you guys can go enjoy this absolutely beautiful day. Because if you're on the East Coast, if you're in New York, New Jersey, it's actually warm out. So let's start with, actually, if we can start with Rose, because Rose, I know you had the biggest time crunch. If you can just give us where to find you and whatever you want to offer to the members who are on the call. You want to go ahead and plug yourself?
Sure. So I just dropped my email and my Instagram in the chat, and I'll put it in my website right now. I have a few tips that I put together, because I know we'd have a little bit of, would have a lot of information. I didn't want you to feel like you needed to take notes. I wanted you to be present and engaged. So Amber will share that in the resources guide. I also have a step-by-step guide. It's a goal setting workbook. I have that. If you want to go through that, definitely take a look at that. Learn how to break down your goals, how to optimize your time, how to maximize your time. That's definitely going to help you. Another thing I was thinking of yesterday, and I texted Amber, I said, we're talking to all these women, we're giving them amazing ideas, but I'm sure that some of them probably need one-on-one instruction. Like, how do I make this work for me? So if you want to do a 30-minute strategy session with me, Amber will send that information out. We can customize to find what works for you, how to create harmony, how to make sure that you can get your work done, you can maintain your peace and your sanity, you can love on your children, you can love on your household, how to get all that done. So I'll be happy to meet with you, and I'll share a link as well for you to do a free 15-minute discovery call with me as well.
Excellent. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Rose. All right, Unique. Tell us, because we didn't talk about eat and cheat. And wait, I'm sorry, I gotta take 5 seconds of your time and say Unique makes some of the most amazing food ever. And she's vegan, however, her recipes are not all vegan, and she made like the best chicken I've ever had. So you take a moment to tell us about eat and cheat and how we can find you.
So yeah, she just mentioned eat and cheat. Eat and cheat eventually will be a store. However, now I do calls, or I do meal preps and catering and things like that, where I just teach people how to live healthy and changing their eating habits and knowing that it's okay to cheat on the weekends. So yeah, that's pretty much that for now. And I also wanted to mention AU Inspired Travel. So I'm Eat and Cheat on Instagram, and I'm AU Inspired Travel, where me and my son, we travel most of the time, and I put a lot of homeschool information on there as well. So I'm trying to put together, I'm going to send Amber some of the stuff, and I'm thinking about also doing another chat for people who might have like other questions. I did want to mention this while it's on my mind. If you're not afraid to go outside, I would suggest going to Dollar Tree. They have so much resources for children. If you're just looking for like little board games or like stuff that you can put on the walls, or like a lot of teachers go there. I used to go there a lot when my son was younger. And they have like little tests, little like reading comprehension, little notebooks and like workbooks and all type of things, and they're all $1. So you could go in there and spend $20 and create a whole classroom if you just want to turn a closet into a classroom, or like an area in your living room. But you can, if you're not scared to go to Dollar Tree, I would suggest that. So I did want to mention that before.
And go to Dollar Tree.
Yeah. I did want to mention that. And I'm a plant-based chef and a plant-based nutritionist. I teach cooking classes. A few people was asking me to do like an online cooking class for children now that they're not in school. So if you're interested in me doing that, let me know. And yeah, that's about it.
That's excellent. I just really quickly, just to mention, because you said it, but you didn't say it. One of the most things about your curriculum, you do for your social studies, you travel with your son, and instead of just having him read all about a place, but you actually take him there and you take him to the culture and you have him have the experiences of places, and you travel all over the world. So definitely check out AU Inspired Travel on Instagram, guys. You can see pictures of her and Aiden all over the world, and it's just the cutest thing ever. And Sierra, last but not least, Sierra's my Detroit boo. If y'all don't know, I'm from Detroit.
Which is so hilarious, being that we never knew each other in Detroit.
In Detroit, but connected here.
I love people, but never each other.
So Unique and this online cooking class, I'm totally here for it. Sierra, maybe you'll do the same thing for us. You make the most amazing cakes I've ever had. They are like, if you've ever seen those super fabulous cakes with like the Louis Vuitton bag and which I think she did one for Amber, who's another Amber, who's one of the people who's on the call with us now, but she does these amazing.
Oh, you made that cake for Amber's birthday at De Novo?
No, I didn't make that. I didn't make it.
Okay, so
I was sitting here thinking
so anyway, but you made an amazing one for my other girlfriend, Jennifer Williams. You make amazing cakes, and Cake College is a part of you teaching other people to make cakes. So please tell us about that, where we can find you, and anything you want to offer to the people who are on the call.
Yeah, so the main thing, like I said, I'm transitioning. So I was at one point teaching professional cake decorating to other professional cake decorators, but I was always getting a lot of moms asking me like how they can make a cake for their kid's birthday. And I think that's the thing now, like people want to have these great, fabulous cakes. Not everybody wants to pay $300 to $600 for a 5-year-old's cake. So that's my new thing. And it's also going to be, so it's a blog, but it's also going to be with the focus on cakes at the millennial, hold on. So the website's going to be the millennialishmom.com, like millennial, but ish, right? .com. I also have an Instagram, which is the millennialishmom.com handle. And then another thing that I mentioned that I do with Emma and that I made a resource for that people can purchase are these coloring pages. So that'll be up and we'll put that in the resource that we send off. But again, that's just like, I have these printouts that I did. And so it's just like these kind of pages you can print. Eventually, this is gonna be an entire book with all of the multiplication tables from 1 to 12 in it, and then like an explanation. But this is a really fun thing to do with your kids. And again, I did it because of my own frustration with Emma, and it works. It worked amazingly. I couldn't even believe it. So that's my main thing right now, and we'll definitely make sure to include that where you guys can get those coloring pages. And yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Great. And millennials, 2 L's and 2 N's, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, let me put it in here. It's right there. Yep, 2 L's, 2 N's.
It's so millennial. All right, and last but not least, it's me, Amber, the Flow Coach. You can find me at the Flow Coach on Instagram or at Quartz Wellness. Quartz Wellness Collective is a community of women who are focused on personal and professional development. I offer online courses and workshops, and also a bunch of just positive online content that you can sign up for through my website, quartzwellnesscollective.com or 39quartz.com, QUARTZ. But positive content to support you on your journey to being your best self. So thank you all again. Thank you. There are so many of you who stuck through this whole call, which I think is awesome. And it really speaks to the fact that we are needing to stay connected and we are needing to help support each other so that we can get through all of this. So I forgot to mention, I also do life, career, and business coaching, small business coaching specifically. So if this is the time that you want to take to start that small business that you've wanted to, holler at me. You can shoot me an email and set up a 15-minute discovery call through my website. So again, thank you guys. I see people want to see that Facebook group, so I think we'll get that together so we can stay connected and continue to support each other and promote our businesses and services that can help each other as well. Get out, enjoy the day, stay well, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
We'll get through this. We will.
All right. Bye, guys.